Domestic violence against men isn't always easy to identify, but it can be a serious threat. There are no official statistics on how many men experience violence and abuse in their relationships, but it could be as many as 1 in 3. That's according to Communities and Justice Report. It is on this note that I welcome you to yet another exciting time on Let's Talk. My name is Olujoke Mosako. I have with me Mr. Dayo Aderinto. He is a relationship clarity support expert and a life coach. We will be discussing the topic, why is domestic violence in men or domestic violence against men, I beg your pardon, underplayed or overlooked? Stay with us. Thank you so much, Dayo, for agreeing to be on the show today. It's
Thank
nice
you for
having
having
you.
me.
Okay, so what's domestic violence actually?
Um, like it sounds, domestic violence is something that occurs within the four walls of a home. It could be in marriage. You know, something that is very close to people. It's not something that happens so outside of us. Something within. That's the brief definition. That I can give right now.
Okay, no one will ever imagine or believe that men could be domestically violated or they could be abused in their marriages or any form of relationship that they are in. Could you please explain the most common form of assault men face and why people never think of it?
It's something that is very very deep, and I think we need to take a step backwards to history and see how this thing metamorphosized to where we are today. I don't even like to talk about domestic violence, and trying to separate it using the word male and female. I like to treat it as human beings, domestic violence against human beings. Because if we don't understand this perspective, we will never understand why, we don't take it seriously when it comes to men or man. Domestic violence um, is more about somebody wanting to be possessive of something. You know, it's really not about, you know, the abuse in itself. Like, let's use the word rape, for example. It's not really about sexuality, against someone. It's about the desire, the self-seeking desire to possess something. All right. And, when we go back in history, you figured out that men were, physically stronger than women. And as human beings, you will find out that anybody that is stronger than you wants to oppress you. So it doesn't matter whether it's a relationship between a father and a daughter or a son or parent, to the children, like you're forcing a child to drink something, to eat something. That's, a molestation. That's an abuse. That's one of it. And that's where it all begins from. All right. And when we are talking about, okay, abuse, okay, let's look at culture. Let's look at slavery, for example. The white people came into the black countries or nations, and then they felt like, oh, we are more powerful than these people, probably because they had guns, and then they wanted to possess us. So it's more about people wanting to possess something, not really about the things that they do. So we can see violence against children. It doesn't matter when we're talking about children, it doesn't matter whether they are male or female, we're talking about human beings. You can see violence from the whites to the black people because they felt more powerful. The same thing is seen between kings and every other person in the town or in the community. The king versus the slave. It's still the same thing, when countries or nations are fighting against each other because one feels they are more powerful than the other person. So looking at this background and history, we begin to see that because men were seen to be more powerful, stronger physically than women, they want to possess the women. All right. They want to suppress them. All right. But at some point, things began to change. Let's say because of technology. All right. And so, because for so long a time, we believe that men are stronger than women. It, it becomes unpalatable. Let me use the word unpalatable. When you now hear that a woman is molesting a man, all right, or a man is being molested, it doesn't sound logical because we're like, a man is supposed to be powerful, stronger than a woman. All right, so that's where it comes from. So when a man is said to be abused, molested, or assaulted by someone, a woman, nobody takes him seriously because in our mind we assume that he's supposed to be stronger. It's locked down in our subconscious mind. Deep down is there. All right. And when we hear that a woman is assaulted, everybody comes out in troop and we begin to fight and talk about it. So that's just the simple explanation as to why it seemed like when a man is molested or assaulted, nobody takes it seriously. It stems back from history.
Now, but if you're going to really narrow it down, would you say what statistics would you give to the number of men that are violated or abused by their spouse in the world?
If we really want to look at statistics, I don't think there would ever be a proper statistics. You know why? It's funny. But you see, more than 90% of abuse against people or human beings, let me use the word human beings, not male and female, happens in the house, in the home. And that's why I started with domestic violence, something that happens not so far away from us. So many of these things goes on within the confine of the home. All right. And they are not even being reported because it happens within the house. Nobody is talking about it. So the ones we take into statistics as the one that we actually know, there are several other people getting molested, abused that you can never hear about it because it happens within the house, within the homes. You see people molesting children. You see people molesting, their stepsister, step brother, and all of that. All kinds of things going on. So I don't think there can ever be a proper statistics. Now, I think the issue is that we think that people are different. Okay, and that's why we are asking the question of statistics. Okay, maybe it's more in Africa. We think people are different in some places of the world, but it's a lie. All right. For example, the reason why there are laws, like you mentioned, in the Western world or in certain part of the country to protect women, the reason why there are certain laws that the women can actually explore, to get at those who try to abuse them or molest them, is because there was something fundamentally wrong with the men in those places. All right. The reason why they create law is because something was going on and they were trying to copy it. So the difference between other countries and Nigeria or Africa, for example, is that they have more working law enforcement. All right. So people are the same everywhere in the world. People molest people everywhere in the world. It's just like we sin differently. People are more cautious because they know if they do these things and they get caught, there's a law that would clamp on them. All right. So they are more careful. They do it in a more, in a certain way that they can never get caught. And that's why we can never come to a proper statistics. So people are doing all kinds of whatever they are doing everywhere in the world. Is the same. It's the same. In Nigeria, in African countries, the reason why it seems like it's more is because there's no law that clamps people. There's no law that puts people into check. It's just like the traffic law. All right. There's nowhere in the world where people say that technically, let me use the word correct. But, when you break the traffic law, you know that you're going to be fined. The camera on the street is going to take, your plate number and then you receive a mail. And because of that, by the time you get one or two tickets, your head would be, will reset. But in other part of the countries, world where there's no, such kind of law, people can break the law. And then when they break the law, it seems like these people are more terrible than certain people in other places. No. So people are not different. It is the law enforcement that is different.
Wow, that's really an eye opener. Now let's go further into the ways to actually recognize a domestic violated man, or would I use abused man? Because men also have pride. When they are going through such trials, they might not want to say it so that their friends won't laugh at them. But there are different kind of abuse: psychological, physical, emotional, and every form, even sexual. When I mean sexual, I mean a woman denying her husband sex. That's also a form of abuse. for men. But in your own point, how do we recognize this?
First of all, if people don't speak up, we can never know.
Yes.
Because we now live in a world where people now have learned to live with their troubles. People go through all kinds of things and they still wear a smile. They say, don't let people know your trouble, just smile, be confident. Don't put your problem on your face. So people have mastered the act of living with problems. So even though someone is being molested, abused, or whatever, they still come out into the public, they laugh, they put on, and then when they're alone, so if people don't speak up, we cannot know. All right, except we are some kind of spirit that can see into people. The only difference sometimes maybe when it just happened freshly, for example, somebody just got molested freshly, it just happened. All right. Somebody that is next to them at that particular time might notice a difference, in the person's character or attitude. And then they might want to be able to ask more questions to be able to figure out what is going on with them. But if people don't talk, we cannot know. And just like you mentioned, men don't want to talk, because of the same reasons I gave earlier on, because men are perceived to be more powerful than women. All right. And because they are powerful, it becomes a shameful thing to talk in the public about a woman harassing me, a woman molesting me, my wife denying me upset. Everybody be like, come on, you're supposed to be a man. Men don't cry. You're supposed to be strong, and all of that. And because of all these ideas, I find that a lot of men don't talk about it, even when they are really, really going through about these things.
Okay, let's quickly go on this break, and when we come back, we continue from there. So stay with us. If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk on DNT Work. And the topic is, why is domestic violence against men underplayed or overlooked? I've been speaking with Mr. Dayo Aderinto. He is a relationship clarity support expert and a life coach. So let's continue on this ride. Thank you so much once again, Dayo. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Now, I just want us to quickly brush up on the issue of women that are just angry. They are very fortunate to have a gentleman as a husband, a man who does not stress them, but they just turn around to make the life of this man unbearable or take him for granted all his kindness, the fact that he wakes up early to take care of the kids, the fact that he decides to bring breakfast for you in bed, the fact that he decides to, make you feel comfortable, make you have a happy home. But you took him for granted and you're in turn making his life unbearable. What do you have to say about this?
It's not about the woman itself. I think it's still about wanting to take advantage of each other. Once you put yourself in a position, here, and someone is here, the person that is here wants to oppress you. And that's where the conversation around taking advantage of comes out. All right. Human being generally wants to oppress each other. Once they feel like, oh, I'm better than this guy, I'm stronger than this guy, I'm stronger than this woman needs me, I have what he wants, she wants whatever, they want to oppress. So when you see a situation whereby a man is, like you described, a good man, takes care of the kid, does all kind of things, and the wife is not appreciative of that, instead is taking it for granted, it still boils down to that, self-seeking desire of wanting to oppress each other. All right. And that's why you find that people tend to love their oppressors. All right. People tend to love their oppressors. It's still the same thing. So if I am a good man, the woman takes me for granted. If I am a good woman, the man takes me for granted. Why? Because we perceive ourselves to be here and they are here. That's the whole concept. Once an human being sees themselves here and every other person here or someone else here, all these things is inevitable.
Okay, so what steps should victims take to recover, or what can be done to stop it?
Okay, stopping any form of molestation, abuse, or whatever name you
Especially
want to give
against
it.
men, since you're talking about men right now.
Okay, yeah, stopping molestation against men, abuse, assault, or whatever we want to put on it. It's not something that can happen on the surface. We have to go and correct it from the base. All right. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, if someone is caught molesting a man, I mean a man, yeah, or assaulting a man. Let's say, for example, let's make it more specific. A woman or a wife is beating up the husband. All right. Naturally, some people would say, oh yeah, that kind of woman should be punished by the law, should be put in jail and then correctional center so that their head will return back to normal. But those things will not solve the problem, all right? Because it will only help other people like that to do it in a more smarter way. And that's where you see people threatening people. If you talk about these things, if you say it out and I hear, I will deal with you. So they've learned, to play smart around whatever they're doing. So, but the way to reduce this to the barest minimum, we have to go back to, take some steps backward. Every one of us have something to do. It cut across the law enforcement. There must be law in place. It cut across parents to their children. All right. So if we really want to stop molestation against men, we have to start from the base. We have to start correcting ourselves, correcting, changing a whole lot of things from the base. From when we are young, we have to incorporate it into people that even though you're stronger than this kind of people, even though you are more powerful, even though you have power, you're in place of position, it's not a license for you to take advantage of people. It's not a license for you to molest people. All right. And also, we should encourage people to speak up, especially the men. Of course, women are always speaking up. Okay. The other day we had the recent case in Nigeria where a popular actor was, seen to have molested a child. I mean, a lady. So women usually talk, they speak up. But for men, we need to encourage them to also speak up. They should not feel embarrassed. Like if you're being molested, you're talking about your life. Okay, you use the word angry. An
Some
angry
people
woman.
died
What is it?
because of this. The wife just stabbed the husband,
Mhm.
or, it happens.
Yeah, if a wife slaps a man, all right, naturally, you should respond. That's human being. Like naturally, you want to respond, like want to slap back. But something comes in your mind. If I slap her back, what do I have to lose? All right. Maybe the woman is physically stronger than the man. Maybe the man is, has more conscience. Like, oh, if I slap her back, this thing could escalate to even worse things. And then he withdraws to himself, like, okay, let me take this. All right. But I think when it comes to slapping, that's an angry man because you're already processing your angry thoughts. You're already, displaying it in actions by slapping people. What about you slap the man and the man slumps and die? So we're talking about human life. So in such a situation, I don't think a man that is getting slapped in the house should remain in the house for whatever reason. Marriage is not by force. You know, seek for help. If you can't talk, see, that's why it's very important. Let me quickly say this because it will help a lot of guys out there. You see, when we're younger, as guys or as men, we used to move in clusters, in groups. We had gangs, you know, boys of five, your friends, everybody know those are their group. And then, we talk about all kinds of things. In that place is where we build confidence to talk to women. In that place, we build confidence to do a whole lot of things because we are encouraging each other. You want to ask out a woman, you're feeling shy, your friends will push you right there. The same thing when you get to college, you had friends as guys, we move in groups. But once we come out of school, that group is broken. And then everybody is on their own individual guy, you and your man. So there's no group of men again to talk to. There's no group of men to take advice from. You're just by yourself because that connection has been broken. All right. So I'm saying this to say that men should start having this brotherhood. Again, like we used to have it growing up. When you have a group of people, a group of men, I mean, sensible men, and you're in their midst, when you go through such things, you should be comfortable enough to speak what you're going through to these guys. And then they'll be able to give you recommendations of what to do. But when you bottle it up, nobody's going to know. And if you don't know, we can be talking about statistics.
Okay. So what now, let's quickly look at the children's aspect, especially, as it affects the male child and the female child. What impact will this have on the male child in taking his place as a man, and on the female child in submitting to a husband or respecting her husband? It's what they see mommy do that will transcend, because some men too, when they see their father beat their mom, they grow up to beat their own wives. And for women, it could also have the same thing on the same effect on that child, because when she grows up and any little thing, the thing the man does is slap, is hit, is shout, is all of these things, because mommy did it and it was right.
We are a product of our environment. As a matter of fact, it gets so serious that we talk, according to our environment. All right. So if I'm a Nigerian, I move to America, at some point I will start talking like an American, because we are product of our environment. So if children or kids are exposed to certain lifestyle, there's a high chance that they're going to take up those kind of lifestyle, except they get to a point in their life when they begin to have a review, or something happens to them that humbles them, opening up the opportunity for them to sit down and think, is this thing wrong or right? So people are a product of the environment. If children are exposed to certain lifestyle, they are more likely to pick up on the lifestyle. If children, like, there's a statistics that also shows that children are people who came out of broken homes are more likely to end up with a broken home. I don't know how true that is, but it's a statistics. So it has an adverse effect on people, because we pick errand, that we pick what we see, we talk in a certain way. That's why even when you're talking about when you're talking of Ibadan, for example, there's a way Ibadan people talk, that when they talk, this person is from Ibadan. It's not because they want to talk like that. It's because that is all they've been hearing people talk. That's how they've been hearing people talk all their life. And then whether they like it or not, they start talking that way. But at some point, we have to sit down and ask ourselves certain questions. The problem is that people don't even have the time or get a chance to sit down. Not like they don't have time 24 hours, but there's no need for it. People invest their time in irrelevant things. There should be a time in people's life where they sit down to meditate. I do that a lot of times. I sit in nature to meditate. Okay, this thing I'm doing, whether good or bad, what can I do to make any difference, to make a change? It doesn't matter whether it's good or not. People should have that time to sit down and reflect. These habits that I have, how am I going to stop it? Okay, yes, I'm a product of my environment, but at this point, is this the normal life I'm supposed to live? Am I supposed to be molesting men? Am I supposed to be molesting women? Am I supposed to talk this way, talk in a certain way? People have to find that time to sit down. So we all have a role to play. All right. We can be producing content, doing all kinds of things, beating our wives in the house, and expect a different life for our children or for our kids or for the generation behind us.
Thank you so much, Dayo. It's been wonderful having you here. You see, I'm weak right now because you're right. You've said it all. We need to watch what we do to actually avoid a future disaster. Do you have any final word?
Okay. Going back to the topic, molestation against men, people need to understand that we are no longer in 1818. The world has changed. All right. It is possible for a man to be molested. It is possible. Thank God for technology. See, let me say this. A lot of women, even though they were not part of what happened several years ago, I'm talking about women who are in their 20s, they still have this mindset that they are being oppressed by men with no statistics to prove it, because it's been passed to them like that women were being oppressed and women are being oppressed. So even though they've gone to school with fair advantage with men, they have equal opportunity in the society, they still go around with this victim mentality of, I am a victim, men are oppressing me. All right. The same thing goes for men. There's this mindset of men cannot be molested because we are powerful. Okay. Times have changed. Those days are gone. So there are two things I want to strike with a stone. Women should stop going around with a victim mentality and start seeing the world the way it is right now. You are no longer being molested. You're no longer being oppressed, rather, like, it happened several years ago. And number two, it is possible for a man to be molested, to be abused, to be assaulted. It is very possible. People must bring this into consciousness. And so when they see a man coming out to talk, they should play, they should attack it or deal with it the same way they would have responded if it were a woman. All right. We should not just roll it behind. For example, if we hear tomorrow that somebody was molested by a man, everybody takes it up, both men and women. Everybody is commenting, posting, oh, that man must be jailed, he must be castrated. But when it comes to a man, nobody believes him. It's sad. Even when you go to the court of law, nobody believes you. That's why in places like in the Western world, women always win because nobody wants to hear you. You're a man. So those narratives have to change. It is possible and very possible for men to be molested. It is very possible for a man to marry a woman that is physically stronger than him. It is very possible for a man to marry a woman that has more than he has. And when someone has more than you have, and your life is dependent on those people, there are so many things you don't want to go into. You just want to absorb everything, absorb all the assault and all of that, and then you think, maybe somewhere down the line, things are definitely going to change. So we need to stop those narratives. We need to start reconditioning our mind to see the world the way it is at this moment. And this is why it's important that every man has a group of friends. We need to go back to that lifestyle. We used to have it growing up. We need to go back to it. Men are supposed to have male friends. Women should have female friends. All right. It doesn't matter whether you're married. You should not disconnect from your male friend.
The right people,
because you will need them. You will need them. You need to speak up at some point. You need to talk to somebody. You need to call your friend in groups and sit down and say, this is what I'm going through in my home.
Okay, thank you so much, Dayo. It's been wonderful, mind-blowing having you on the show. And thank you too for always being there. Thank you for always watching Let's Talk. And I hope you've been able to learn so much from this. And we pray that if whoever is going through this same trial at this time, the Lord will help you come out of it safe. And I'm going to leave you with these words. We are a product of our environment. Learn to take a step backwards and meditate to know what is right and what is wrong. And like Dayo said, remember your friends, be in a group of friends. But I'll also add that the right people, actually, when you have the right-minded friends, it will help you a long way. Until next time, I remain Olujo Kemosaku. Bye for now.